the scariest personal paranormal stories we found online. You know the feeling. It's a noise you can't quite place. A flicker of movement in the corner of your eye. It's like a word on the tip of your tongue. A phantom sensation you can't quite grasp. For most of us, that's where it ends. A fleeting, weird sensation we forget almost instantly. But for the people in these stories, those little moments were like the first tremor before an earthquake, a sign of something much bigger about to shake their reality. The internet is full of anonymous accounts of deeply unsettling experiences, and we've gone down the rabbit hole to find some of the most believable and terrifying personal paranormal stories ever told. We're going to break down 3 of these chilling accounts, shared by real people on forums dedicated to the unexplained. But we're not just here for the ghost stories. We'll also look at what science has to say about it all. While there might be rational explanations for these events, the raw fear these people felt is undeniable. We're not here to prove or disprove anything, but to walk that terrifying tightrope stretched between what we experience and what we can actually explain. So stick around to hear about an experiment designed to contact the dead and what happened when it seemed to work a little too well. The attic. Our first story comes from someone who thought they just moved into their dream home, a classic 2-story house with tons of character. The price was almost too good to be true, and they, their partner, and their young child settled in right away. The first week was perfect, but then the noises started. It began as a faint, rhythmic creak from the attic, like a slow, tired metronome counting out the seconds in the dead of night. At first, they brushed it off. Old houses make noise, right? But the sound got more distinct. It wasn't just the house settling. It was as unmistakable as a heartbeat in a silent room, the sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, and deliberate, pacing from one end of the attic to the other. It happened almost every night, always after midnight. Even their dog noticed it. He became a living alarm system, sitting at the bottom of the attic stairs and staring at the ceiling with a low, rumbling growl, like a barometer sensing a coming storm. Getting seriously unnerved, the couple decided to check it out. Armed with flashlights, they pulled down the attic ladder and climbed up. The space was empty, except for a few dusty boxes and a big antique trunk pushed against the far wall. No signs of animals, no holes in the roof, no way for anyone to get in. They searched everywhere and found nothing. Shaken, they went back downstairs, trying to convince themselves it was all in their heads. The breaking point came a few nights later. The footsteps started again, but this time they were frantic, like someone was running back and forth. Then, a massive crash shook the whole house, like a clap of thunder directly overhead. Heart pounding, the homeowner grabbed a baseball bat and ran for the attic. They threw open the hatch and stared into a chilling scene. That heavy antique trunk, which had been against the far wall for years, was now in the middle of the room. Its lid was thrown open like a gaping mouth, its contents spilled across the floor. Nobody was there. They never heard the ladder being used. The scene looked like the aftermath of a frantic burglary, but with no burglar to be found. The user wrote that they didn't even pack. They grabbed their kid, got in the car, and never went back to that house. Okay, that's genuinely terrifying. But this is a classic example of how our brains can interpret random sounds. It's a phenomenon called auditory pareidolia. Think of it like seeing shapes in the clouds. Our brain is a natural artist, hardwired to find familiar patterns like footsteps in a canvas of meaningless noise. In an old, creaky house, your brain has a lot to work with. Once fear enters the equation, it acts like an amplifier, turning the volume up on every creak and groan until the whole house sounds sinister. That's confirmation bias at work. Now, the story of the moved trunk is the hardest part to explain away. Without proof, it remains a powerful but anecdotal piece of a truly chilling experience. The scratches. Our next story comes from a sleep paralysis forum and deals with an experience that is terrifyingly common. The user said he'd had sleep paralysis for years, that awful feeling of being awake and aware but completely unable to move or speak. For him, it was usually just a silent, panic struggle inside his own head. But then, one night, something changed. As he lay there frozen, he felt a presence in his room. He saw a tall, slender shadow detach itself from the corner, a patch of darkness that was somehow blacker than the night around it, like a tear in the fabric of the room itself. He was hit with a wave of absolute, primal fear. Over the next few weeks, this became a regular part of his paralysis. Each time, the figure seemed to get closer, and the feeling of dread grew into a suffocating pressure on his chest, as if an invisible weight was being lowered onto him. The night that truly broke him was the one that left physical evidence. The paralysis hit hard, and the shadow figure was right there, looming over his bed. He felt a crushing weight pressing down on him, making it impossible to breathe. He heard a faint, dry, whispering noise, but couldn't understand any words. Then, he felt a sudden, sharp, burning pain slice across his back, like 3 hot knives dragging across his skin. The pain was so intense, so real, it felt more real than the paralysis itself. He fought with everything he had and finally broke free with a gasp. He scrambled out of bed, heart hammering against his ribs, and flipped on the light. The room was empty, but the burning on his back was still there. He stumbled to the bathroom and twisted to see his reflection. To his horror, 3 long, parallel red scratches ran down his right shoulder blade, angry and raw. They were exactly where he felt the figure touch him. He was convinced that something hadn't just been in his head. It had physically attacked him. This is a horrifying story, but it actually lines up with some of the more severe symptoms of sleep paralysis. If you've never had it, think of it like this. Your mind is the driver, suddenly awake and alert, but the car, your body, is still shut off in the garage, completely unresponsive. The shadow person is a classic hypnagogic hallucination. It's as if your mind becomes a movie projector, casting its own nightmares onto the screen of your bedroom while you are still awake. These hallucinations can be visual, auditory, and even tactile. As for the scratches, while it's the most terrifying detail, the most likely explanation is that they were self-inflicted. It's like your body's emergency services reacting to a false alarm. The brain's hallucinated pain is the 911 call, and the body reacts, sometimes violently, before realizing there's no fire. So while it felt like an attack, science suggests it was a conflict between a waking mind and a sleeping body.
The Estes method.
For our final story, we're looking at a technique created by paranormal investigators themselves. The story was shared by a member of an amateur ghost hunting group who decided to investigate an abandoned psychiatric hospital. The team showed up with all the usual gear: EMF meters, recorders, and a spirit box. After hours of wandering through dark, decaying hallways with almost no activity, one of them suggested they try the Estes method. This technique essentially turns one person, the receiver, into a human radio antenna, completely cut off from their own senses. The user who shared the story volunteered. His friends put a blindfold on him and a pair of noise-canceling headphones over his ears. Those headphones were plugged into a spirit box, a device that acts like someone frantically flipping through every radio station on the dial, creating a chaotic storm of white noise and audio fragments. The receiver can't see or hear his friends. His only job is to say any words he thinks he hears through the static. The rest of the group started asking questions into the dark. For the first 10 minutes, the words coming from the receiver were random: blue, over, find, sky. Then, an investigator noticed his EMF meter was spiking near the door of an old patient room. He asked, "Is someone here with us?" A moment later, the receiver said one clear word: "Doctor." Intrigued, another investigator asked, "What happened in this room?" The group held their breath. The receiver fidgeted, as if he was struggling to hear. Finally, he whispered, "Mistake." Goosebumps shot up on everyone's arms. The lead investigator pushed, his voice tense. "What mistake?" he asked. Just then, an EMF meter across the room lit up red, like a silent exclamation point. And through the headphones, the receiver spoke a chillingly clear phrase: "Didn't wash hands." The team was stunned. When they later researched the hospital's history, they confirmed that back in the early 20th century, before germ theory was widely understood, patient deaths from infections were incredibly common. So, did they actually talk to a ghostly doctor? A spirit box is just scanning radio broadcasts. It's like pulling random words out of a giant, invisible hat filled with snippets of talk shows, song lyrics, and commercials. Our brain, the ultimate pattern-finding machine, then plays a sort of cosmic game of connect the dots with that audio confetti, searching for meaning. That's auditory pareidolia again. When you put someone in sensory deprivation inside a creepy hospital, it's like giving their brain a puzzle with only spooky pieces. It's going to build a spooky picture. And those EMF meters? They are less like ghost detectors and more like a compass near a magnet. They're simply reacting to the electronic soup of our modern world: bad wiring, cell phones, or the team's own gear. The method creates a great atmosphere, but it's really an experiment in the power of suggestion. So, what's the takeaway here? Is it that our brain is just an unreliable narrator, spinning terrifying fictions out of thin air? Maybe, but that doesn't make the fear any less real. Science can offer logical explanations, but knowing a roller coaster is perfectly safe doesn't make the stomach-lurching drop any less terrifying. The genuine emotion of the experience can't be explained away. These stories stick with us not because they're proof of the paranormal, but because they remind us that the human mind itself is a vast, uncharted territory with mysteries as deep as any haunted house. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something you just couldn't explain? Drop your story in the comments below. We genuinely want to read them. And for more deep dives into all things mysterious, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.